Hey there, all you beautiful Texans. Welcome back to the James Show. It's News Talk 820 WBAP, now on FM at 93.3. Let's go. We have Election Eve. Is the theme of today's broadcast. I mean, look, we can do the I know it sounds standard and hack, but it applies. We get to do this every 4 years. Who you voting for and why? 800-288-9227. I'm going to get you all caught up on what's going on with the final days here in the campaign trail. And we're in sort of the eye of the hurricane, to where, I mean, it feels like there's all kinds of crazy stuff going on around you right now, but none of this matters. Anything that happens, no matter how insane it is between now and then, it's not going to affect the outcome of the polls at this point. There's not enough time for the information to get to the low information voters. Most people have already voted anyway. But to get a sense of how my friends at the RNC are feeling, let's ask Tommy Piggott. Hey, how are you feeling over there on Team Red today and on Election Eve, sir?
Hey, we're feeling cautiously optimistic. Everything that's measurable now when it comes to the early vote, when it comes to turnout, is measuring positively for President Trump, especially when we look at what something's called lower propensity voters, which are those voters that maybe don't vote quite as often. They're coming out at very high percentages for President Trump, which signals a high turnout. So looking at these numbers, we're feeling very optimistic. But having said that, we're taking nothing for granted, making sure we run through the finish line on Election Day. Well,
I'm not here to scold you, but I think you guys missed a great opportunity here. Kamala Harris has been able to go over like 106 days now that she's been the assumed nominee. Never had to do a press conference. Never just had to sit there in front of a crowd of people and go, okay, your turn. Okay, your turn. Okay, next question. Okay, next question. She never had to do that. I think if y'all really had pressed it, y'all could have forced her into that.
I mean, she really should have done one. You have noticed from me there that she should have done one. We have been, at least from our end, pressing her in terms of calling out how staged and how scripted her events are. There's Team Trump, for example, on different social media platforms and elsewhere is calling out the fact that literally her facial expressions, her arm movements are the exact same. So I think people are actually seeing that. They're seeing that she can't answer a question. And the fact that she can't even do a 20-minute interview without editing it together, I think it really is a warning sign for people that are trying to judge who they want to be the next president.
Well, I thought she looked pretty cute on Saturday Night Live. Did you get to see that?
Yeah, I saw it, though. I thought it was kind of funny. I saw some people pointing out that, not the skit, I didn't think the skit was that funny, but I thought it was funny that they basically seemed to plagiarize the skit from President Trump on SNL in 2016, which I think is just sort of telling that anything that they try to do that's not from the radical left side of it, they just seem to be plagiarizing President Trump. So I thought that was kind of amusing that the skit was basically the same, or at least from reports that I saw.
Well, you know, that opening skit that she was actually in is getting a lot of attention, but there was another skit they did like halfway through the show that had a presidential election theme to it as well, like what's his name? And they brought out Hillary's running mate from 2016. And I love that because I've always said on this James Show, if I went and stuck a microphone in someone's face just walking out on the sidewalk here and asked them who these people were, they wouldn't know. They don't know this stuff. And the contestants didn't know, and they had to admit it. And then they brought up an old tweet where he said, let's remember the names of Justice. Let these names not be forgotten for BLM. And he's like, name anyone besides George Floyd on that list. And he couldn't do it. And so I think culturally speaking, it's not as polarized as it was, and I have no answer for that.
Well, I think what was interesting about that skit as well is that they brought up, and they did this by accident, but one of the things they said was admitted that the arguments they're making now about how threats to democracy and other sort of things that Democrats are saying, that they've been saying every single election cycle.
Yes. Good. So you saw that. Yeah. That's another good point. Right.
Yeah, so I thought that was interesting that they're basically admitting they make the same arguments every 4 years. And then on top of that, if I was Tim Kaine, I wouldn't like that you're not known for doing anything important. I don't think that bodes well for his tenure in the Senate, and the fact that people don't know who he is.
All right, Tommy Piggott, if you had to handicap the thing, what odds do you give Trump tomorrow?
I think right now it's momentum Trump. We're seeing that in the data. I think, though, it depends on if people make their plan to come out and vote. SwampTheVoteUSA.com. That's the big thing. So right now we're feeling good. I don't have an odds to put on it, but we got to make sure people come out and vote. That's
a dodge. That's all right, though. It's an impossible question. Do you think we'll have an answer by Wednesday?
We're hopeful we will. We're hopeful that we will based off of the trends we're seeing. But even if we don't, we have that unprecedented election integrity operation. We're going to have eyes on every part of this process, but we're hopeful we will.
Well, I hope it's done by Wednesday. I don't want this thing to be drug out. I hated it when it happened, especially in 2000. That was the most ridiculous one. I know you were probably like 4 back then. Tommy Piggott, RNC, how do they become a part of the cause? Find some more info. What's your website plugs?
Biggest thing now, swampthevoteusa.com. Make your plan to vote and bring 10 of your friends and family with you.
There he is, Tommy Pickett, RNC spokesman. Thanks for being on the James Show. Appreciate it. Good luck tomorrow, sir.
Thank you.
Hey, and just to let you know, we've reached out to people on Team Blue, and they don't come on. Some of them say they'll come on. We had one guy from Tarrant County come on. He's my hero. What was his name? Benjamin or something? That guy. There's one. We invite him on. It's not that we're only trying to talk to Team Red. It's not that we only want to hear from Republicans. We like to hear from Democrats too. So if you work for the Democrats or you volunteer with the Democrats or you just feel like you can speak for them, I would like to hear from you too. And I guess it's just going to have to be regular old pedestrian callers and, instead of some spokesman for an RNC outfit, but I'll take it. 800-288-9227. I'm not going to beat you up. It's the same questions. Who you voting for and why? How do you like your candidate's odds? How do you think this is going to turn out? Will we have an answer by Wednesday? 800-288-9227. I really want to hear from Team Blue. 800-288-9227. Coming up next, 106 days Kamala's been the nominee. She's going to go through this whole election cycle without doing one press conference. I don't think you realize how incredible that is. I'll explain it to you coming up on The James Show. I'm James Parker. It's News Talk 820 WBAP, now on FM at 93.3. Hey there, welcome to Election Day Eve on WBAP. Couple of important news updates here since we're between our two newscasts. Dak Prescott's injury that happened yesterday, a little more serious than thought. We have something up on WBAP.com, just a quick blurb about that. But also, if you're looking for the severe weather stuff, I know that doesn't affect all of us equally. Some people, it's the most important thing that's happening right now. Other people, it's not even drizzling. Go to WBAP.com, check out the radar maps and all that, and see if that affects you. I don't want to leave you hanging here because election talk is going to necessarily dominate the show today. Who are you voting for and why? 800-288-9227. I'd really like to hear from Team Blue. 800-288-9227. Brian in Grapevine, you're on WBAP. Who are you voting for and why?
Hi, James. I'm voting for Kamala Harris. I'm a lifelong conservative, but to me it comes down to the tariffs issue as well as foreign policy. And I think that, unfortunately, the conservative movement, we've gotten off track.
Explain. I agree. Foreign policy isn't. Tariffs aren't traditionally conservative policy, but Democrats aren't a traditionally low tariff group either.
Well, but comparatively speaking, you're not talking about 100 up to 400% tariffs. That's the issue. Is every time that we've instigated tariffs on the level of what is being talked about, it's been disastrous for the economy.
When else have we done like 400% tariffs on a product?
Smoot-Hawley tariff was one. And then, going back into the 1800s, it didn't help us either when we made it nationalized. And the problem is you're asking us, the customers, to pay for it. And it doesn't. I
don't think we did a 400% tariff on anything, even in the Smoot-Hawley tariffs. And you're going back to 1929. Listen, you actually have a piece of sympathy. I disagree with the throwing tariffs around in China and stuff. But you have that and foreign policy. What about her stance on universal health care? What about open borders? What about gun control? What about expanding and growing government? And even in the foreign policy, she's pretty war hawkish. She's for the forever war. She likes all this intervention-y stuff. That's not conservative.
To be fair, if you want to say it's not conservative to have been involved with foreign policy, like that was largely American foreign policy all the way up until Trump. But be that as it may.
No, it was. No. The conservative movement has been the pro-peace party for the overwhelming majority of American history. In fact, there's not.
But by doing it through covert action, like with the CIA and stuff like that. We can be honest about it. Like, my issue is that if you want to talk about one of the biggest issues that I have is when you have a party that has decided to demonize our teachers.
No one's demonized any teachers. See, I've looked.
Wait.
Hang on a second. Is anyone else's red flags going off here? This guy's not a conservative. He's pretending to be it because he knows we have a conservative audience and he wants to give them sort of a green light and to show that it's okay if you're conservative to throw away all these values because you're so concerned about the Chinese electric vehicle industry being tariffed. Do you understand why we feel like this sounds AstroTurf, Brian?
Nice discursive trick, but that's not how it works. The issue is, if you're all about the government being smaller, then why is it the conservative movement has tried to grow big government to take over into spans of personal lives? I mean, you have the former president of the United States making declarations against teachers saying that students are going and having their
see, now you're busted because hey, listen, you just outed he just outed himself as Team Blue. He's talking about them and they and how did they and their candidate and their president, they demonize teachers, not we, our side. You're obviously an AstroTurf Blue, and that's okay. It's just kind of a hack move. Go ahead, Brian, defend yourself.
I mean, dude, he said he wanted somebody blue to come and talk to you, and then he tried to shut it down.
No. I did want someone blue, but you said you were a conservative voting for Kamala. So I asked for if you would have just come on and said I'm a liberal and I'm voting for Kamala, I wouldn't have had a problem with it. You pretended to be Team Red, even though you are Team Blue. You could have just been Team Blue. You didn't have to do the whole trickery thing.
It wasn't a trick, dude. I voted for Bush in 2004, my first election. I worked for Mitt Romney in 2012 as part of his debate prep team.
Okay. So that's what I'm saying is all right, well, let's ask you, how do you feel about gun control? Do you think we need to get rid of the database and expand gun rights? How do you feel about abortion? How do you feel about the Texas abortion law? How do you feel about expanding socialized medicine? Go ahead.
I would say that on the issue of reproductive health.
Well, see, he's Team Blue. All right, next person. Karen, Fort Worth. You're on the James Show. Who are you voting for and why?
I am voting for Ms. Harris, and I'm very uncomfortable about it. I've always been a Republican, but this is an issue I have to stand on.
Which one is it?
It is abortion. We have women dying here in Texas because doctors can't help them, because they risk going to prison if they do. And these are women who, several, I think at least 3, have died of sepsis.
Yeah, see, I do hear this from Republican women. See, I don't think you're lying. I'm pretty sure Brian was full of it. But Karen, Republican, voting for Kamala based on this abortion topic. And the reason why, first off, I can hear it in your voice. You're not trying to scam anybody here. But I have heard this from other Republican women. They are really hesitant about the abortion. And here's my other observation, Karen. The likelihood that these women themselves have either had an abortion or had someone really close to them to an abortion, like they had to take their sister to an abortion clinic or had to take their best friend when they were a senior in high school to the abortion clinic. They've had some sort of close personal touch with this, and they don't want to withdraw that from other people. You know, even if they feel it's wrong, they feel like they should at least have that decision. And this is this is the confounding issue in our political sphere. In all other aspects of governance, the Democrats would like intervention. They don't want you to have personal control. They don't want you to have this sort of libertine freedom to choose, even if it's something they don't like, except for abortion. And then the Republicans are the flip for most other things when it comes to guns, when it comes to some of these other issues. They're more about freedom. And except for this one. So this is the weird flip-floppy issue that really flips people up. And this is a big win for Team Blue, because I don't know anybody that is a Democrat that will vote for Republicans just because they're pro-life.
Well, you have described me quite well when you say I've had personal experience, and this goes way back. This goes such a long time ago. This goes back before Roe versus Wade was a law, and my college roommate had to go through this. Now, I would never have an abortion. I tried to talk her out of it. We've got to present women with options. We have to take care of them. We have to take care of those children, but we can't have these women dying. And here in Texas, we don't get to vote on this. I know that President Trump, whom I admire, he thinks we do, but we do not here in Texas. We don't, and the doctors are rightly terrified of what can happen to them. We have just got to.
Right.
I mean, we're talking about mamas with children who are dead because the doctors couldn't help them.
Right, Karen, I'm about out of time here. Now, I know a bunch of Republicans are saying that's not how the law is written, and the doctors acted wrongly, and the doctors are the ones sacrificing these women for political purposes because they know damn well that if the woman's life was in danger, they have free reign to legally operate on them. And the fact that they did die is sort of proof positive that they could have operated on them and not had any negative consequences. So, look, there's a gray area in this debate, and it's one that is not going to get settled on this show. But y'all heard from Karen. Y'all heard that in her voice. You're never going to talk her out of that position. 800-288-9227. Ooh, this got real serious real quick. It's election eve. Let's hear from you. Who you voting for and why? 800-288-9227. I'm James Parker. It's The James Show. News Talk 820 WBAP, now on FM at 93.3. Bob Lavelle, Home Marketing Services. Hey, last time I had to move, Bob, I got a new job. It was in a new neighborhood, and I didn't care what the interest rate was. There was no excuse. I didn't care how many houses were on the market or what the churn rate was. When I had to move, I had to move, even though the conditions weren't ideal. How would you describe them now, Bob?
That's a good question. So many people are still worried about everything from what the interest rates are today or what they're going to be tomorrow. And I guess it's kind of like the night before Christmas and all through the house. Not everybody has one, but you could if you make the right call. It's after the election, I think things are going to loosen up a bit. I really hope so.
All right, Bob Lavelle, he's helped thousands of people find their next home. He can help you find yours. 972-392-9595. 972-392-9595. And now that the Cowboys are just laying an egg, you have a little more free time. You can feel free to go look for some new houses on the weekends as well. Your Sundays are now open. Call Bob, 972-392-9595. Thanks, Bob.
All righty, take care.
Hey, welcome to the James Show, News Talk 820 WBAP, now on FM at 93.3. Listen, I was a WBAP fan before I started working here, so it's really cool for Steve Lamb says, more coming on the James Show. Oh, Steve Lamb just threw it to me. Oh, my God, I better make it great. All right, here's the sports ball report from the James Show. We're screwed. Season's over. See you in 2025. Just take a knee. Just in the next game, whoever you're playing, just go out there, first snap of the first drive, just take a knee. I know the sponsors and the commercials loads will be mad, but that's my recommendation. That's why they don't put me in charge of such things. All right, it's election eve. Who you voting for and why? Now, I asked for Team Blue Collars, but I think I've gotten a couple of Team Blue Collars who weren't really admitting to being Team Blue. Was there a seminar this weekend where they're like, hey, call these radio shows and pretend like, hey, man, I've been a Republican all my life, but this time I just got to vote for Kamala? Because if I get like 3 more of those callers, I know it's a seminar. I knew the first guy was lying. The other woman, she's stuck on the abortion thing, so gave her a pass. Do we have any more? We'll see. All right, 800-288-9227. You're going to have to get in line because my next guest is someone a lot of you need to talk about right now. She's an expert on reducing stress. Julie Hutchinson's back on the James Show. I feel like people say this is more stressful than normal. Nah, this is kind of normal stress level for presidential elections, in my opinion. What do you think?
It's pretty stressful. As a matter of fact, so much so that 82% of adults have felt that this election cycle has been an emotional roller coaster. 82% are saying this. So lots of stress out there around this election.
So I may be desensitized to all that because of my job and the amount of time I'm exposed to this stuff. So I can see why you would maybe be or find it excitable that we've never seen someone get shot in the head before. We've never seen a candidate get thrown out after the primaries and a new one installed. But the thing that I do hear every election cycle is this is the most important election in history. The fate of our country hangs in the balance. And so I don't know. It's kind of a balance for me. I don't know if this is more stressful or on par.
It's pretty interesting that you say that because you're steeped in this every single day. You're talking to people about it, so you could definitely be desensitized. One of the things that we know is that the more emotional investment you have in your candidate, the more you're going to be triggered by the other candidate. And so it sounds like, you're on radio and you're talking to different people, so it's not stressing you out as much. But for your listeners out there, I really want to really have you guys notice how much am I emotionally invested in my candidate? And if you have an emotional investment and then thoughts wrapped around that, like, I can't believe this other candidate is running, our country is just going to go to hell in a handbasket if this happens, if this candidate wins, start to monitor your thoughts around it. Reframe your thoughts about the election and your candidate because our thoughts have a direct impact on our physiology. And what we're seeing is that there was another survey that was done that the American Academy of Sleep Medicine said that nearly half of Americans are losing sleep because they're worrying about the election. Half of us.
That's ridiculous. From the James Show, I highly recommend against that. What we do talk about on WBAP is super important and it affects the world and its history happening in front of your face, but none of it is worth losing sleep over. Julie Hutchinson, coreperformance.us, that's still your website?
Yes, it is.
All right, find her there. I appreciate your time. And if you have some stress issues, that's the woman, Julie Hutchinson. Back to the phones. Don in Grand Prairie, you're next up on WBAP. Who you voting for and why?
I vote for Kamala Harris. Already voted.
Okay, why?
And the reason is, number one, the abortion issue. Number two, I will never vote for Trump ever again. I voted for him in 2016, and I voted for Biden in 2020. But him, with his rhetoric, it's old. It's done. And the thing is, here's my point. After January 6th, in 2020, after the Electoral College voted and the Supreme Court denied him, if he would have shown the same respect that Ford showed Carter, that Carter showed Reagan, that Bush showed to Clinton, the respect that Obama showed to him, and he would have said, hey, I don't agree with it, like Gore did, and said, but you wait, I'll be back in 4 years. But we got.
Well, that's not what Gore did. We didn't figure out when did we learn the result of that election?
After the Supreme Court decision.
Yeah, January. And then the top story. Listen, hang on. I understand. And I'm not saying you're wrong in your vote. If that's the way you feel, you're right to vote that way. But seriously, like, you don't remember how in 2017, 2018, and 2019, questioning the 2016 election was literally the top story in ABC, NBC, CBS, CNN, and MSNBC? And now all of a sudden questioning the validity of an election is, it's time to vote for this guy. It's beyond the pale. What really turned you off of Trump? There's something happened. If you voted for him in 2016 and you didn't in 2020, it wasn't January 26th. Something happened before then. And I feel like it's a specific.
The rhetoric on him and all the false promises he made. Let's be honest.
I know, but I feel like there's something specific here. What was it, Don? What triggered you to?
One, because how he handled the pandemic at the time, and unemployment when he left was 10%. He walked into a great economy, and when he left, the country was in shambles. A lot of it because of the pandemic, but how he handled it. But my big thing, the big decider now, is of January 6th. Because if he would have done the respectful thing and said, "Hey, Supreme Court to talk,"
that doesn't make sense for two reasons. Number one, because because you had already decided to not vote for him in 2020, so you can't say something that happened in 2021 is the reason you didn't vote for him in 2020. So that's not what turned you off to him.
It was after what he said in 20. I said I didn't vote for Biden in 2020, but what he did after that election is, well, I'll never vote for him again because of January 6th. After the Electoral College voted and the Supreme Court denied him, Gore conceded after the Supreme Court decision. He still conceded. But if he would have said, "Hey, I don't agree with it. I got to respect it. But you wait. In 4 years, I'll be back. But Biden won. I'm here to help him out." That's the most important thing. If he would have done that respectful thing, there was no way that January 6th attack would have happened, period.
The attack, right? A bunch of people.
Yeah. What do you call it? 140 cops getting hit?
It sounds like a regular protest to me, just a regular old whatever you saw with the Free Palestine people for all summer. Whatever you saw with Antifa and Black Lives Matter was 10 times worse than that. I mean, how many people were shot? One person, Ashley Babbitt. It was a protester being shot. Were they armed? I keep hearing they're armed, but no one had it out. No one, if they had a gun, they didn't pull it out or wave it at anyone or shoot anyone.
Their Mason clubs and all that. That's not a weapon.
Yeah, that's
and the FIS came out
right, and it's well within the standard of what you see in any given protest from any given hissy fit that happens in the street. That's what protesters do. No, it wasn't something beyond the pale, especially compared to the protests that were had throughout 2020. We just saw like dozens of major American cities have buildings on fire in downtown. How many buildings were on fire in January 6th?
I don't agree with that either.
How many buildings were on fire in January 6th?
The Capitol was.
It was on fire? Sure it was. Now you're just lying. The point is, it wasn't an overly bad protest. I was just saying that, not just like, you're wrong, but to say, no, there's a reason I'm not shocked by that. Because I saw about 48 worse protests the entire year. And so for you to act like, that's just beyond the pale. But all these Antifa people, they're not beyond the pale. BLM shooting 5 of our Dallas cops downtown, you're still on their team? Cool, Don. 800-288-9227. I'm The James Show. It's The James Show. I'm James Parker. News Talk 820 WBAP, now on FM at 93.3. Hey there, welcome to The James Show. News Talk 820 WBAP, now on FM at 93.3. Who are you voting for and why? It's Election Eve, 800-288-9227. Now, we've been having fun here because we've been getting the seminar callers. They don't listen to WBAP. They don't like the James Show. They don't know the James Show. But they're very politically active, and they have such a strong opinion about their team that they've gotten instructions on how to call talk radio and use our airwaves to try and influence voters. I enjoy it. 800-288-9227. 800-288-9227. Just be honest. Don't call in and tell me, oh, I'm a lifelong conservative and voting this way this time. Just say I'm a liberal and I'm voting for Kamala and tell me why. 800-288-9227. 800-288-9227. All right. The monologue that I really wanted to get into in the second segment has got pushed back till now. And I just wanted to take a second here and put a thumbtack in it while we're piling up people on hold. It's been 106 days since Kamala's been the nominee. No formal news conference. Do you realize how absolutely incredible this situation is? I don't think you do. I think if a Team Red member had tried to do this would be the top story. You know, either this or like the 27 plagiarisms in her 2009 book. That one just fell off. Trump getting shot in the ear just fell off. But let me fill in the gravity of the situation because it doesn't fit the narrative, and so the rest of the media isn't going to do it. So let me go ahead and spell out a little context here, because this is the only time in your life a presidential candidate has done that. Never done a press conference before, during the campaign, on election day. No, never answered questions. Every single presidential candidate's done it. This is the only presidential candidate in your lifetime that was installed by the party, not by you, not by the voters, not by a straw poll. It was installed by the party after removing the candidate that was chosen by their own voters. Their own voters, Democrats. These goobers calling in and pretending to be Republicans that I just have to vote for Kamala Harris because women are dying. Stop it. This is for a candidate who probably has the least voluminous record on how they would govern going back to Eisenhower. We don't have a candidate with as small of a record as this that's ever been made president. Well, going back to Eisenhower, and he's that kind of the exception because he had all that, winning World War II stink on him. That's totally sarcastic. It's an amazing accomplishment. Humorless people, don't at me. But you don't know how she would govern based on her career as the district attorney or the attorney general. And then she didn't have any time in the state legislature or state senate. What you really just have is 2 years of senator before she was scooped up as VP. The only other way you can know what's going on inside her head on how she would govern was that book she co-wrote in 2009 that has 29 plagiarized passages. This is it. So for someone who didn't go through the primary debates, didn't go through any primary press conferences or any primary town halls, only had a 100-day campaign, to not do a press conference is incredible. The lack of transparency, the lack of knowledge of what all of Team Blue is voting on, incredible. Kamala Harris voters, you don't know her religion, do you? You don't know her economic philosophy. You don't know her accomplishments. You don't know you really don't know her foreign policy platform. You don't even know her monetary policy. You don't know anything about her except she's pro-abortion and she wants to do some handouts. Yay, free student loans. Yay, free healthcare. Yay, free money. Free for new businesses, free for child daycare. So Santa Claus, that's what you got. Santa Claus with abortions. That's what you got. Because I think this is something we will look back on, maybe not in 5 years or 10 years, but in like 15, 20 years. We'll look back at the 2024 election and say, what happened there? What kind of crap was that? They run out an admitted DEI hire who also happens to be the lowest polling VP in polling history. One debate with Trump and 0 press conferences. They really tried to do that. Is that going to work? 800-288-9227. All right, back to you, the James Show reporters, callers. Who are you voting for? Why? 800-288-9227. I'm James Parker. It's News Talk 820 WBAP, now on FM at 93.3. Hey there, all you beautiful Texans. Welcome back to the James Show. It's News Talk 820 WBAP, now on FM at 93.3. It is Election Day Eve, and I want to hear from you. Who are you voting for and why? 800-288-9227. We've had some fun with seminar callers, but if you're like just a regular old Joe who lives in the North Texas area and you voted for Kamala Harris, Team Blue, I would like to hear why. Don't be a seminar caller, though. We know what that is, and that's fun for a while. But I want to hear from just an authentic listener of the James Show. I know it sounds weird to you, but about 20% of the people listening right now probably voted for Kamala Harris based on our little surveys and research and whatnot. And you saw me, even with people who are obviously dishonest and calling in bad faith, I was respectful and nice with them. I promise I'll be nice to you. 800-288-9227. Now, coming back on the James Show, my friend from the Heritage Foundation, Hans von Spakowski.
Oh, hello. Great to see you again, Hans.
Your specialty has been, I know, I forgot I just sprung that on you. Your specialty has been, some of these border issues. And I really thought, now that we're on election eve, I thought that would have been a bigger issue. Not that it wasn't a big issue. I thought it would be like the issue, and it wasn't.
Well, the polling shows that people are really concerned about it. So even if people are talking about it, I think they really are worried because they're seeing it in their neighborhoods. 5 years ago, the border problem, that was down along the Texas border. And while people close to the border in Texas had to deal with it, the rest of the country, big deal. But we now have illegal aliens spread out all over the country. In almost every county, these individuals have been put there by the current administration, and it's causing huge problems, spikes in crime, overcrowded schools, you name it. And I think that's actually something that as people go into a voting booth or they're filling out an absentee ballot, I think that's going to be a pretty big factor ultimately in the race.
I have not been able to find an answer on who took Haitians from Haiti, or maybe they landed in Florida. Who took them and dropped them off in Springfield? Who's dropping them off in these swing states? Like, who is behind that?
Well, I think it's not only it's the Biden-Harris administration, and keep in mind, they have been funneling huge amounts of money from the Department of Homeland Security into liberal NGOs, liberal advocacy groups, who then are helping to funnel these folks. By the way, listen, I spent 5 years living in this teeny little town in Alabama, Athens, Alabama, and imagine my surprise just this week. I saw an article about the huge problems they're having in that town because of large numbers of Haitian aliens, non-citizens, who've been brought into that city, and they've had rises in crime rates and all kinds of other problems.
So it's not getting media attention, but you still think this is maybe the swing issue in this election?
Yes, because maybe it's not getting media attention from the left stream media, but people are seeing it in their communities, in their schools, all over the country.
So economy, that's usually one of the big driving issues in this election. I really thought it would be a bigger deal.
Oh, but again, I think look, my experience over a lot of years is that people, when they go in and they vote on based on what their gut is telling them. And that's based on everything they've been seeing, hearing, reading for the past couple of years of an administration. And I think the average voter knows that when they go in the grocery store now, steak is unaffordable and hamburger is costing the same price that steak used to. And, that's because we've had a 25% increase in grocery prices. The average person, they know that. The elites in New York, people like that, they don't care about that. Those prices don't affect them. But the average everyday American, they know about that.
Well, if that's the case, then Trump's going to run away with this with 300-something electoral votes.
Well, I don't know what's going to happen, but I don't think we should be surprised by anything that happens, given particularly how I think the polls in the past have, for example, underestimated his support. Look, a lot of people, you know this, a lot of people are afraid, particularly in some parts of the country, to express support for him. They don't want to put signs in their yards. They don't want to answer pollsters' questions because they're afraid of harassment, graffiti in their houses and cars.
Or just being thought of as a Nazi is enough to dissuade most people.
Yes. Yeah, it is.
All right.
So again, that may be a factor in this election.
All right, Hans von Spakowski, I know we can find your stuff at heritage.org. Anything else you want to plug while we're here?
No, just to make sure that everybody goes out and vote because, man, every vote really does count.
Thank you very much. Hans von Slikowski from the Heritage Foundation on The James Show on WBAP. If you want to be next, it's election eve, and I'm asking you who you're voting for and why, with a special call out there for Team Blue. 800-288-9227. 800-288-9227. I'm James Parker. This is The James Show. News Talk 820 WBAP, now on FM at 93.3. Welcome back to The James Show. News Talk 820 WBAP, now on FM at 93.3. Okay, let's go back to August. Remember, Kamala, at this point, had been the nominee or assumed nominee for just about a month or so, had done a press conference. She was starting to get asked questions about it. And her campaign spokesman said, this is from August 14th. I know this sounds like 5 years ago, but it was just a couple months ago. Listen to the dip and dodge. No, we'll be doing a press conference.
Michael, I'm sure this is not going to be the first time you've heard this question, but the Trump campaign is also going after the vice president for not doing enough interviews, for not holding a press conference. Would it kill you guys to have a press conference? Why hasn't she had a press conference?
Listen, the vice president, Governor Walz.
First off, why did he laugh? Why didn't she have a press conference? Would it kill you to have a press conference? That's a complaint, bro. That's you're so funny, Jim McCoskey. No, he's asking for some accountability. Now, remember, we now know that now that it's the day before the election, that no press conference is ever forthcoming. They never had any damn intention of having a press conference. Transparency, openness, communication with the American public, that was never in the cards. They were just going to lie their way through it. And we now know that this is all lies.
Have been busy crisscrossing this country since the launch of this campaign and adding Governor Walz to the ticket. You saw the ways in which...
First off, we even said on the James Show when this happened, there's no such thing as being too busy to talk to the press when you're in a presidential campaign. That's what the campaign is.
Went across the battleground states last week, generating rallies of thousands, 10,000 here, 15,000 there. But
Michael, a campaign rally is not a press conference.
It's going to be inclusive.
Do you mind if I cut in? I mean, a campaign rally is not a press conference. Why hasn't she had a press conference? She's the vice president. She can handle the questions. Why not do it?
She's not gonna.
We absolutely
Jim.
are going to do it. You hear her take questions as she's out on the stump, and she said last week, we're going to be having a sit-down interview here before the end of the month. What she's going to be focused on and what this campaign is going to be focused on is communicating directly with the voters that are actually going to decide the pathway to 270
She never connected directly with the voters.
Press conference this week.
This past week. That's why we're doing a bus tour in Pennsylvania.
Look at Jim circling back. Get him, Jim.
That's why we'll sit down for an interview before the end of the month to make sure that we can have a deep dive conversation about the vision that Kamala Harris has for where she wants to take this country and the contrast that we're going to have with Donald Trump. We're going to have plenty of opportunities to do that throughout the rest of
one interview by the end of the month.
This month and throughout the rest of the campaign.
I don't want to belabor this, but one interview before the end of the month. I mean, that's not a lot. I mean, can you commit to a press conference before the end of the month?
We will commit to directly engage with the voters that are actually going to decide this election. And that is going to be complete with rallies, with sit-down interviews, with press conferences, with all the digital assets that we have at our disposal. We are running a campaign that is built to communicate with the voters that are actually going to decide the pathway to 270 electoral votes. We are confident in the plan that we have in place, and we're going to execute on that plan.
And now you know the rest of the story. That was all lies. There was never going to be a press conference. They were never going to tell you there was never going to be a press conference. 800-288-9227. 800-288-9227. It's election eve on WBAP. You're listening to The James Show. It's News Talk 820 WBAP, now on FM at 93.3.